Razorback Nation, what is up? We are back for another Wednesday show with, of course, baseball starting up their series with Auburn tomorrow and Easter being this weekend. So things are a little bit shifted, but, we're going to make do and roll with it here. Welcome into episode 92 of Hawgs on the Hill podcast. You go to the podcast for an in-depth dive into all things Arkansas sports. We brought to you by our friends over at Razor Pigs. Looking good never felt so fun. Razor Pigs is the Arkansas-born brand, bringing some serious style to golf course, tailgate, and everywhere in between. From high-quality polos to head-turning hats, they've got what you need to rep the natural state with pride. Founded right here at home and now run by a Razorback-loving family, Razor Pigs is where comfort meets cool. So go hog wild and shop Razor Pigs today at razorpigs.us. And, of course, our friends over at Scarlet Letter, Arkansas's very own handcrafted spiked seltzer. Check them out today. And if you are in Northwest Arkansas, check out the Core Brewery Tap Room, where you can get Scarlet Letter and all of its various flavors. And, man, it is a nice Wednesday evening. And basketball's wrapped up. Portal's about to open up here. But as you can see by the title, we'll be focusing a lot on baseball because things aren't looking great right now. If anybody stayed up late and watched the game last night, a typical series with Missouri, or a game with Missouri State, how that's been over the past few years, that's how that game's went in terms of high scoring and things like that. But we'll dive a little bit deeper into what could be going on with this Arkansas baseball team. But how's it going, Zane?
It's going good. Obviously, if baseball wasn't a losing skid, it'd be a little bit better. But it's even though season's over, it's a very fun time with the portal opening, kind of seeing all that jazz. But can't complain too much. Pretty happy with it all right now. So how about you?
Yeah, doing good. Like you said, wish baseball wasn't on a losing skid here, but softball has got it rolling. They play Auburn at home this weekend on Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So, at least softball's carrying things right now as they sit at a nice 30-5 record, 5-4 in conference play. Coming off that big series win against Florida, kind of doing what the baseball team couldn't. But we'll dive into last night's game where in 10 innings, extra innings in this one, Arkansas falls 15-14, a high-scoring affair here where the ball was just flying out of the park for both teams. And, this one, it looked like Arkansas was about to be in a almost a hitting competition, home run type battle with Missouri State, throughout this game, because it started out Arkansas scores a run, Missouri State comes in and, adds some, and it's just back and forth the entire game. Both teams used 6 to 7 pitchers for both sides. And, man, it's just like pitching-wise, I mean, it's good to see these Arkansas guys get hitting the ball. But pitching-wise, man, something's got to be figured out here because we are struggling mightily.
Yeah, it was one of those just, as the season started, the pitching was good. So I don't know if it's just like a little skid or what has happened, but I mean, starting the season off, the pitching was at least carrying some whenever our bats were struggling. And so to see kind of the bats pick up, but the pitching dip is kind of like, okay, cool. Now we got to work on this aspect of it. It's not the same problem we've had so far this season, but, obviously not great. But, I think based on what they were doing earlier in the year, I still think that talent's there in the bullpen as well. I think they can get it figured out. Questions, will they? I don't know. But it's not like, hey, throw the season away, we have no pitching at all. Like, we've seen them pitch well, and now we're seeing the bats hit well. So it's like, okay, can we get it at the same time at least? But, yeah, kind of confusing to watch right now.
Yeah, and I mean your longest pitcher for Arkansas went 2 2/3, and that was Parker Coyle. But I know Arkansas has had some struggles early on in the season with sickness as the flu went through early on. And then now it seems like if you listen to Dave Van Horn on the pregame show yesterday talking about how strep throat's been going around, Micah knew that's why he didn't play yesterday as he was sick with strep. That's why it was a late scratch on Sunday. Dave said he's been wearing a mask and kind of just really trying to keep him isolated and not get other guys sick. But then also the update with Damian Ruiz, as we know, he was, it was reported after the game that he was having an MRI. Turns out Dave said, we're going to be without Damian Ruiz for at least a month, that he said he severely strained his knee trying to go up and catch a ball at the wall against Florida, and said that, they feel lucky that he didn't tear anything, but it's, he's in a brace, he's hopping around, and that, they're going to have to make do without him for a little bit. And you kind of saw that with the roster last night. You had Rutenbar in left field, so his, depending on how you look at it, third or fourth position, this season, that he's played in right field, he's played first base. Now he was in left, and he's a true catcher, so it's like, you're putting him all over the field, but with his bat, it's hard not to. And then you saw
Yeah.
Turner get his first start or not his first start, but put into a role in center field as you had
New out.
New being out, Rutenbar in left, Turner in center. Now I assume when New is healthy and can play again, you might see Turner shifted over to left, because there was a few plays that Rutenbar, you could tell he's not a natural outfielder, left fielder type of guy.
Yeah.
Late in the game, had that ball that he dropped that was hit on to the wall, would have been an out, but then dropped it out of his glove. And so, get him in either a DH spot or still playing first, something like that. And then let your guys that you brought in to play outfield play. But man, it was back and forth game. Looking at the pitching, still Eves got his first start as a Razorback. He had been mainly a relief guy, his first season last year and up into this year. Only went an inning, allowed 3 hits, 4 runs, all 4 of those earned, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts on 24 pitches. So, this is his third straight game of he come out and did not look great. He came in, made 2 appearances in the Florida series, really struggled there. And, Dave, I mean, some guys you have to try and work through issues, and I think that's what he's trying to do with some of these guys. And Steel Eves came out and just didn't have it. And then you had James DeCramer come out for 2/3 of an inning, so even less. He struggled again. We saw him get, struggle in the start a couple weeks ago in a midweek series that they gave him an opportunity. In this one, he allowed 3 hits, 2 runs, both of those being earned. No walks, no strikeouts on 13 pitches. Jackson Kircher comes in for an inning and a third. 2 strikeouts for him. Mark Brissy comes in for a third of an inning, 1 hit, 3 runs. All 3 of those earned 2 walks on 21 pitches. Parker Coyle, the longest relief guy of the evening, 2 2/3 innings, 3 hits, 3 runs, 3 strikeouts on 37 pitches. Cooper Dossett came in following Coyle with 2 1/3, 3 hits for him, 2 runs, both of those earned, 4 strikeouts across 36 pitches. And then Peyton Lee, the unfortunate guy that came in the 10th inning, the extra innings for the 2/3, allowed 1 hit, 1 run, that run being earned, and of course that being the solo shot that won it for Missouri State. So, 7 guys used for Arkansas, and they all seem to struggle at some point in the game for a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunately you're gonna have those nights where it seems like no one can really get in a groove, and I mean, when that happens, the best kind of do what they're supposed to do is, hey, your bats need to step up when you're pitching struggling, and they did. I mean, 14 runs is not bad. But yeah, it's hard to see how, quite a few of those guys are in our weekend rotation and came out and struggled. So it's like, okay, like we gotta get this ship righted right now. And so it's tough to watch just because you do know that they can pitch better and that they have pitched better even this season. So I don't know, just a lot of question marks after that game and the pitching side of things.
Yeah, 14 hits allowed for Missouri State, and yeah, it's like everybody knows like in baseball, hitters go through slumps, pitchers go through struggles. We've seen that from time to time with different hitters, different pitchers. And I mean that you see people calling for Geckel to go back to the pen, um, and other things. And it's like, then who do you start that takes away from your kind of closing? People talked about, well, you switch
Yeah.
Gibbler into a starting role, but then you take away one of your really good closers. So it's like, all right, well, you got to be sure you have a plan in place if you do move Geckel back to the pen, because there's not really been, other than maybe Gibbler, anybody else that has shown me they can come out and start well, other than the guys you're starting, because you've seen a number of these guys that were in relief get starts at times this year, whether
So
it
do
be
you
in.
think that Steel Leaf starting last night was almost a Dave seeing how he does as a starter?
I think it could have been, because he's starting to
Okay.
evaluate these guys, and especially with the struggles that even Fisher has had in conference play. He looked great in non-conference, and then these first few series he's really
Yeah.
struggled.
That's one where it's like, okay, yeah, like beginning of the season you were really good. Can you get back to that? Yes, I know the competition's higher than it was, but that's one of those, hey, is it not as good as the batters, or is it one of those he's in a slump? So
Right.
that's where it gets dicey trying to figure that all out.
Right, because you don't want to have a kind of a knee-jerk reaction and just pull a guy. You
Exactly.
want to
Because
let
then the
him.
motivation on that for the player hurts a lot too.
Right. And as a coach, you want to let a guy work through it. But, looking at an Arkansas situation, 4 straight losses here. If you're looking back to the Florida series and then this midweek, if you go back before that, in their last 6, Arkansas is have lost 5 of their last 6. Thinking about the win over UCA, but then they lost the last game of the South Carolina series. So, really struggled there. And, yeah, you don't want to have that knee jerk reaction on, maybe moving a guy or shifting something, but, you know, you've got to get back in the win column. Yesterday was a better opportunity
Yeah.
than what this weekend is, but, you've got to make some changes and see what works. And I think, you kind of see that as it was reported that, going into this weekend series for Auburn, yes, it's you get a day less rest for these starters, but as of now, Geckel will start Thursday again, but then Saturday or Friday and Saturday are TBD. So, you know, we don't know who's going to start Friday, Saturday. I'm really shocked that Dietz is not on there, because I feel like he's done well out of those
Yeah.
3 this past week against Florida. He went the longest, and he only went a little over 4 innings. So it's going to be interesting to see how Dave does shake this up. Does he go ahead and start Dietz, and then, Fisher gets in a different role, or does he flip flop those guys and Fisher gets the opportunity to start on Friday and maybe shifting the schedule around, but then, he's coming off even shorter rest. So I don't know. You've got a bullpen full of guys. There's some guys that didn't play yesterday that could have starting potential. I mean, maybe he throws in a Gibbler. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked at this point.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, what is the definition of insanity is doing the same thing when it's not working, expecting a different result.
Yep.
At some point you got to mix up something. So, and that's the fine line balancing. Hey, are you just in a slump, or do we need to go to different starters? So, that's what he gets paid to do. So I'm not going to critique that aspect of it, especially because I don't know baseball that well, especially compared to you and Hobbs. But I'm gonna be the one that backs out of that conversation. Just hey, whatever he does, I trust him. So it'll be interesting to see kind of that starting lineup, and especially like say tomorrow, Gackle does good. We're say ahead by like 1 run, 6 innings, and we pull him out. If he sends in Fisher or Dietz, then that right there is automatically okay. Like, what if
That
you don't
tells you,
know?
like,
So
yeah.
yeah.
Well, and it maybe
So,
also tells you, if Gibbler doesn't follow Geckel, then he might be in line for a start. Another guy to potentially watch out for in a
exactly.
start is Tate McGuire. We've seen him pitch really good in several situations this season, and partially last weekend against Florida. With some of those guys, you kind of just have to flush the tape because that's not typical Arkansas baseball. But also with some of these pitchers, you've got to learn from this and really improve because Arkansas is in. I hate to use this term, but almost it feels like they're in a tailspin right now. Last night was your opportunity to get back in the win column, kind of get some momentum back, and you were doing really well, and then Dave has to pitch guys because you don't want to pitch any of these guys really too long midweek because you're going to need them over the
Yeah.
weekend. But it's like you go to a freshman in a clutch situation in the bottom of the 10th, and 3 pitches in, he gives up a home run that walks it off. So it's like
That's
you said,
hard.
I'm not going to critique Dave. He had enough confidence in Peyton Lee to put him in, but man, it's just an unfortunate situation, to put that player in where he comes in and then your first 3 pitches, that third one, that's it. That's the game's over. So
Yeah. Now, do you think there's the potential for, like, say, an Ethan McIlvain to start?
that's an interesting to think about because as we've seen this year, he's been mainly a closer. But again,
I
like
was
you
to
said,
say, but 7 appearances, 13 and third innings. He is 3-0 with a .68 ERA. Yes, that's definitely closer numbers. But when your pitching's been struggling as much as they have, do you pull that trigger and try to bring him in as a starter for game and see?
yeah. And, as we've seen, Dave's not afraid to do that, make
Yeah.
changes like that because, if you say look back at his time at Vandy, he had 16 appearances at Vandy, 5 starts. So, he started at least a third of his games at Vandy, pitched 27 and a third innings, 31 hits. The number that's not great, 27 runs.
Yes. But if you also see him through seven appearances right now, 13 and third innings. He does have 8 hits, 1 run, 1 earned run, 21
Much better.
strikeouts, and they're batting 160 on him. In terms of extra base hits, he's only allowed 1 double.
Yeah.
He hasn't allowed a home run. He's one of 4 pitchers on the team to not have allowed a home run yet this year.
Yeah.
Granted, the others have 3 innings, 1 inning, and then 11 and 2/3 from Mark Brissy.
Yeah. So, I wouldn't rule it out, with him having starting experience and being, a junior. Dave might lead on him, be like, hey, we need some help. We need you to come out and, maybe bring some stability. So, I'll be interested to see what Friday and Saturday look like. I expect some change. I don't think it would be TBD, and then you just roll out the same guys. I really
agree with that.
So, whether it's McIlvain, whether it's Tate McGuire, whether it's Gibbler, who knows? I think the shock one to me, like I said, is surprised to see that you don't have Dietz starting because out of those 3, he's really done the best. But,
Yeah.
maybe like we said, Dave wants to shift things around and see what happens. So we'll see. But in terms of batting, it seemed like everybody, hit the ball well against Missouri State. Carter Rutenbar, leadoff guy, 1 for 4, took 2 walks. So, he's doing his normal thing, what we've kind of praised him for doing. Either he's getting hits or he's hitting the ball. He did strike out twice, but, was able to get a hit, scored 3 runs on that. Cam Kozel coming in clutch, easily Arkansas's best offensive weapon right now. Going 2 for 5, scoring a run, 5 RBIs, and a walk. But, a crucial hit that kind of helped Arkansas in the 7th with that grand slam that he had, way to step up to the plate and make a play. Ryder Helfrich 1 for 4 with 2 RBIs, 1 run scored. He also drew a walk. Zach Stewart, his return to Missouri State to face his old team, several guys still on that team that he knows. He goes 2 for 5, 1 run scored, 1 RBI, walks once, only struck out once. So, a good outing for him against his old team, at least. Glad to see that. Reese Robinette, one of few guys that didn't get a hit. He went 0 for 4, scored a run, walked twice. Keel Loy, this one hurts. Like, you think getting benched would kind of the Pompey treatment, if you will, would maybe help him out. Not at all. 0 for 5, not even a walk, all 5 strikeouts. It just seems like he is really struggling at the plate, and as close to an automatic out as you got that you can chalk that up to.
Yeah, it's a rough stat line, especially for such a high scoring game to not have a single hit or even a walk. Like, that's tough. That's tough.
Yeah, and it's not like you can even say, oh, well, he may have been in there for his defensive play. He was just DHing. So it's like we've seen him struggle in the outfield as well. So don't know what needs to happen there, but, I think things will get maybe shifted around a little bit when New is healthy and can come back. Nolan Souza, 3 for 5, 3 runs scored, 3 RBIs for him. So a really good day for Souza. It seems like he's really progressed well coming back from injury and really has found a groove here as we've entered conference play. TJ Pompey, 0 for 3, 2 runs scored, 2 walks, 1 strikeout for him. And then Christian Turner, the freshman, getting a big opportunity in a midweek game and showed out. 3 for 5, 2 runs scored, 3 RBIs, didn't strike out, and was able to get his first career home run for Arkansas. Big time for him. And I think once you see Micah New come back, I think you'll see Christian Turner shifted over to left field to take that spot while Ruiz is out. And then more than likely either Rutenbar will go back to first or he'll be DHing for Arkansas. It just depends on how Dave feels about Pompey and how he's doing. Because right now, Aloy he is not the answer. He's got to get some things figured out, and he's really hurting this team right now.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's one where, and you saw with Turner stepping up, like, we do have guys that are so far being able to kind of step up and fill in when needed, and that depth is really valuable come into season as well. So maybe it's, hey, getting them more involved early on. You hate to rely on too many freshmen, but the way they're playing, it's like it might not be a horrible idea. So,
yeah. Well, because if you look at the stats right now, Camden Kozel leads the team in batting average. He's hitting 336 after last night. Damian Ruiz, 330, but again, we're going to be missing him. Your next guy up, Micah New, is hitting 311. Helfrich's hitting 290. But a guy, Carter Rutenbar, that's gotten some opportunities here lately. He's hitting 378. Christian Turner only has 38 bats on the season, so significantly less than a lot of these other guys, but he's hitting 300. So, these guys are showing they're able to come out and perform when called upon, and that's for a Dave Van Horn team. That's what you've got to do when he gives you an opportunity. You take hold of it. So, I mean, looking at Rutenbar and Turner, 45 at bats for Rutenbar, 30 for Turner, compared to the rest of your starters like Kozel, Ruiz, New, 113 at bats for Kojal. Micah New has 106. Reese has 91. Helfrich has 100. So, they have, significantly less at bats, but, if you extrapolate that out, you got to think that they're going to continue to perform well and be at the top of the leaderboard as they continue to get opportunities.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those. You got some pieces that are doing okay. So just see what happens with all that. Obviously, with the small sample size, it's tough to tell for sure. But again, you're not really going to know until you get a bigger sample size, and there's only one way to do that. So I'd almost say give them the opportunity until they force you to take them out.
100%. I agree. I mean, and you look at some of the stats that you put together as comparing to last year, Arkansas has 9 more at bats than they did last year, but significantly less hits. 320 hits at this point last year and 284 hits this year. So, over 40 hits, nearly less. Batting average is down by 0.4 of a point. We're hitting 322 at this point last year, 283 right now.
Yeah.
We've scored almost 60 runs less than last year.
Yeah.
9 more errors. More doubles.
Yeah. By 2.
And then nearly 20
less
less home runs.
19 less home runs. Another one, 47 more strikeouts batting.
Yeah.
That's not good.
Left on base, about the exact same.
Yeah.
Walks, about the exact same. So some consistency there. And then, you look at the pitching. We've allowed 9 more hits to this point.
In 44 more at bats.
44 more at bats. 21 more runs scored.
We've allowed 12 more home runs, though. That's rough. At this point, through 30 games last year, we had allowed 23 home runs. We're now on 35. That's rough.
The other one that I don't like to see either, we also have 15 more walks.
Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah, you don't want to see those numbers. And then, we do have higher strikeouts as well, though, but those walks and home runs are killer. I mean,
yeah,
you can't have that.
And batting average allowed is pretty much exactly the same as well.
Yeah.
So
there's some work to do. Dave's got I don't think we've seen him struggle this much in quite a few seasons. So he's definitely got some work to do. And, hopefully we can come out this weekend and be able to at least win the series. We need to bounce back in conference play because these next 2 weekends are going to be tough. You're on the road at Auburn this weekend and you go to Alabama next weekend, and Alabama just swept that Florida team a few weeks ago that just swept you. So
they just swept Auburn last week.
Okay, I didn't realize they fully swept Auburn. So, I mean,
Alabama's hot Auburn last weekend. So Florida and Auburn back-to-back sweeps at home for Bama. That's rough.
Yeah, and you have to go there, so it's not like they're coming into Baum Walker and you're at your home, stadium. And I mean, even when you do come back to Baum, it doesn't get much better because who comes to town? Georgia. So
yeah, not fun. Now, for what it's worth, we're doing okay against starting pitchers. Just when they pull in a relievers when we've been struggling, because I've also been tracking that. So for starters against us, like how we've done against starters, Stars are averaging 3 2/3 innings against us. We're averaging 4.1 hits, 3.2 runs, 4.5 strikeouts, but also 2.5 walks against starters on average this season. So, beginning of the game, we're not exactly struggling too much. It's just
late game scenarios when
as the game wears on, we tend to wear down.
Yeah. So, I don't know what it is. I mean, I know some people are throwing in the towel already on this season. And,
Yeah, don't go doing that now, y'all.
yeah, I mean, am I getting nervous? Yes. Am I hitting the panic button yet? No. Because, I mean, I still trust Dave Van Horn. Yes, it's been 10 years since we've been swept, which is a decent amount of time. But, I feel like if anybody will figure it out, Dave can. And, you got a perfect opportunity, number 18 Auburn this weekend. Go on the road, kind of make a statement, get some momentum back because you're going to need it the following weekend, with Alabama. So,
yeah, for sure.
with that being said, we'll jump over to some Arkansas basketball. Yes, I know the season's over, but that doesn't mean there's nothing to talk about, as next week the transfer portal will open after the national championship game. So
the 7th.
7th, and I believe it's only open a week, correct?
2 weeks.
2 weeks?
Closes the 21st, I believe.
Okay, yes, that's right.
I could be wrong, but I think it's 2 weeks it's open.
So with that, you've seen guys declare their intention to enter the portal. The portal is not officially open yet, so nobody is technically in the portal. All these people that they're saying they're in the portal is just announcing their intentions. Knock on wood, so far, no Arkansas players have entered the portal. The only ones that we know won't be back for sure, Pringle and Brazil due to eligibility. Acuff is going in the draft. Malik Thomas is still up in the air because there were some talks before tournament time that he could be working his way to come back. But, with his tournament play, you've seen him shoot up some draft boards into, around the 30s pick, early 30s. And so,
I would say Tankathon came out the draft 3 days ago, having him at 34th. No Ceilings released a draft today, ranking him as 32nd. And then the one that I'm kind of curious about, NBA Draft.net, has him at 18th. Kind of surprised where they're getting that feedback from on him. So, but they also have Ewan at 49, so I'm not too sure about this one.
Yeah.
But
and so, the real question with him is, does he want to go ahead and take his shot, or does he want to bet on himself and come back and, potentially play into a top, 15, top 10 pick next year? Especially as deep as this class is.
That's totally up to him and interesting to see what he does. What I will say is, based on his stat line and numbers from this season, any of the last 7 to 8 drafts, he would have been taken anywhere from probably 13 to 18. And then this draft, you're seeing him fall early second. And I think that just speaks to the true depth of this class. So I almost think, obviously selfishly, come back another year.
Right.
But also, I mean, even if he doesn't improve his numbers and has the same numbers as this year, most likely, I would think maybe in that 14 to 20 range, which is still first round pick. Still, hey, piece to help win a title. That's kind of what you're being drafted as. Second round is more development piece, whatever. Obviously, if you improve your numbers, some you could be looking at lottery there. I think he has the offensive skills to be a lottery pick for sure. But yeah, I mean, looking at his stats and where he would match up in past drafts, I think you come back just because of how talented this draft is.
Right.
So that's at least my 2 cents on it.
Yeah. And so we'll see what happens. I'm sure, we may get some news soon. I know he said after the game he is going to take some time, recover a little bit, talk with his agents, and, all the things that you're going to do before kind of making a decision like that. The only other one that we kind of have an update on, is Malik Ewan. So he kind of posted on Twitter X yesterday, announcement coming soon. And we've kind of been waiting for that. He posted a story on Instagram a little bit ago with saying it's time. So what that means, I'm not 100% sure yet. Some people are, it's been reported he's coming back. It's also been reported that he's not coming back and potentially seeking to transfer somewhere else. I don't see him testing the NBA waters just I don't think he's ready for that unless, he wants to kind of maybe use the leverage of, I can still go back to school type of thing and maybe go through the draft process. But, he's the one that kind of there's some question marks beginning to form.
Yeah, that's why I'm interested to see what happens. It's actually very intriguing there because, I mean, with, some of the
It could
talk
be the
of
first of
guys,
many dominoes.
it could be. So that is one where what I will say is if he does choose to transfer, obviously I would like to have him back. He does have that ability to kind of, finish around the rim and get kind of like the fans hyped up. But if he does leave, don't worry
Right.
because there's a reason he would be leaving.
Right. And
So
we
that's
talked about
one.
this. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, we talked about this before the kind of show, and we're like, I was telling you, I don't know yet if I feel Cal is the guy to not necessarily push a guy out, but encourage a guy to be like, hey, maybe you should look, to go elsewhere type of situation. I don't know if that's just Cal's mentality and that he already kind of has a plan in place, quote unquote plan with tampering and how things go nowadays. Not going to say Cal wouldn't do it because everybody's doing it. I mean, look at Rick Barnes over at Tennessee right now. So getting a commitment before the portal's even open. So
A week before the portal opens. So that's okay, good to know.
but yeah, like you said, I don't know if that's Cal's mentality of encouraging a guy to leave and seek other opportunities, or is Ewan actually driving that and it's more on him than it is Cal? I don't know.
I don't know for sure. Um it would be interesting to see kind of at what point we get these decisions because if you're getting those decisions in the next day or two, then it's like, okay, well, what's being said behind closed doors?
Right.
And if it's, hey, you see him announce he's entering the portal, okay, within the next 8 to 10 hours, are there any other guys that'll be entering the portal, or is it someone who may have already announced their intent to enter the portal?
Right.
I think a lot of fans are leaning towards someone who's already announced their intent to enter the portal, and it makes sense in my opinion, but you can't roll out anything yet. So portal season always has some interesting stories.
It does. And, let's dive into, one of those first dominoes, is a guy we've talked about that it'd be nice to have. We played against him this year, and, there's familiarity and a relationship there with Cal, and that's Santos Cyril from Georgia. As we know previously, he is a sophomore, previously committed to Cal at Kentucky before Cal left Kentucky to come to Arkansas, end up deciding not to follow Cal, goes to Georgia, has really been a beast in the paint this year, and is a guy that, what is that?
Yeah, he had 8 blocks against us.
Yeah. And so, he he doesn't kind of blow you out of the water with his points, averaged 9.3 points per game this season, but 5.4 rebounds, those block numbers he had, shot 75% from the field, nearly 76. But, you look at just how, throughout the games and how much of an impact he made. He kind of had the season or the performance, if you will, that we maybe were hoping that we would get out of Pringle and kind of be a bully in the paint. A guy that
He's got
really,
an inch and 30 pounds on Pringle, so more of a physical presence.
right. And so, yeah, I mean, you look at him, 6'11", 260, and he played in all 33 games for Georgia last year, didn't start any, started 32 of 33 this year. Minutes went from 14 to 21 this year. His field goal percent went up nearly 14%. Not a three guy, so you don't have to worry about that. His free throw percentage went up nearly 10%. Rebounds went up. Blocks went from 1.5 to 2.2. As you mentioned, 8 against us. And so, I mean, that's kind of like we said, domino number one. If Ewan does end up leaving,
I'd fully expect it to be because Cyril's coming here. And just for anyone that doesn't know kind of the story, I forgot if you already talked about this, but he was committed to Cal at Kentucky, with the same class as Boogie, Billy, and Knox. Whenever Cal left for Arkansas, those three followed him, obviously. Jaden Quaintance and Sumto Cyril did not follow.
yeah.
Quaintance went to Arizona State. Cyril went to Georgia. But he was originally committed to Cal. So that's where kind of the connection comes into where we might be expected to get him. I do know when I think it was Joe Tipton had posted that he was entering the portal, a lot of the comments, there were a few comments that were like, oh, like he's going to be a so-and-so or he's going to be a Badger or whatever. There were quite a few comments from non-Hog fans that are like, no, he's a Hog. Like if you know that, you kind of have a good idea that a lot of people expect him to probably come here because of that previous connection. Also, his style of play is very much like almost like a Karl Anthony Towns was in college type style of play. So I think, I think it's been a minute since Cal's had kind of that dominant big. I think the last one was probably Oscar Shibwe. But you see when he does get those big-bodied physical dudes down low, your Scalabrine, Willie Cauley-Stein, Karl Anthony Towns, Anthony Davis, Oscar Shibwe, he's successful with those guys. And it seems like all of his really good teams have 1 to 2 dudes that are just like that.
Right.
And I think Sumto Cyril is prototype Cal dominant physical big guy that he needs. I think that's kind of like you hinted at what Pringle was supposed to be. Obviously, he wasn't quite up to what we thought, but also, I mean, the entire season coming out of the locker room, he would have that little back brace on. So I don't know if he was banged up all year or what, but just never really did what they quite thought. So I think Cyril would be kind of the next big guy that Cal uses to just improve a team.
Right. And that makes sense. So, it's going to be interesting. That could be domino number one. The next one is another guy that has kind of ties to Arkansas, and that is Georgia Tech transfer Muhammad Silla. A guy that Arkansas was in the running for top 3. That it was honestly, I think what it ended up as far as what was reported was that we just got outbid and Cal wasn't going to play that game, and he went to Georgia Tech. But 6'10", 240, very similar numbers to Sumto Cyril.
A little bit more rebounds. He was 7.2 rebounds.
9.6 points per game, 7.2 rebounds per game, shot 57.9% from the field. And, average.
He was a top 30 recruit according to ESPN. He was 29 in the class. So, highly touted dude.
Yeah. And so, another guy that ties with in relation to Arkansas. Only played in 16 games this year, had some injury issues that kept him out of some games.
I did see a lot of their fans were saying he kind of mentally checked out of the program in January. So part of me wonders if it was almost like a Jane Quaintance type thing where it's kind of a lost season. He kind of mentally checks out. That is kind of one hazard red flag I do want to look at, just because you did have quite a few fans from their program saying like, oh yeah, no, he should have entered the portal in January, or oh, he mentally entered in January or whatever. So that is something where it's something to look at. I don't think he would have the same problem here, but I don't know for sure.
Right. And the flip side of that, the guy that, with Cyril, the issues that you worry about with him is he had quite a few games this year where he either got
Attitude
called for
problem.
technical or fouled out. And
Or flagrant.
Or flagrant, yes.
He was also ejected a couple times. So not just technicals, also flagrant ones. And I think he had one flagrant two, maybe. I don't know. But I also feel like the Arizona game's a very bad example of what I'm about to say, but I feel like Cal is normally good at kind of checking the emotions and not getting those fouls on the players.
Mm-hmm.
This season did happen some, but I feel like he'll at least be able to rein it in a little bit and keep it under control for the most part. And I also think with Cal's experience and his pedigree, I think he would be able to get the point across. Hey, if you want to get to the league, you can't be doing this stuff.
Right. Kind of help him learn and understand, hey, great talented player.
I get you're frustrated, but I got to pull you out for a minute so you don't make a mistake here.
Right, exactly. So, both those guys kind of back and forth on, there's some good to take with the bad. And so, those are two other guys. Another guy to talk about, teammates with Scylla, is Bay and Dongo, junior, 6'9".
Kind of limited Scylla's minutes some this year was another more experienced post guy because this guy will be a senior next year. So I think that kind of also limited Scylla being a freshman. His minutes maybe makes his numbers not look as good, but I bet if you go look at the per 40 stats, it's fairly good for Scylla. But I feel like this guy was also playing above him for a reason, as he's tended to have a little bit more balanced numbers.
I was about to say, you look at him, 6'9", 240. He is from Senegal as well, but averaged 11.8 points per game, 8.1 rebounds, 2.4 assists, shot 55% from the field. Played in all 27 games, or played in 20, started 27 of 20 games he played in. Averaged about 27 minutes.
7'3" wingspan, good and long.
I was about to say, shoot 71% from the line, 35% from three. So, has some range, 55 from the field, averaged a block a game right at 1.0. And so, I mean, he's another option too, that could potentially be brought in, that has been kind of linked, if you will, for Arkansas. So, in terms of big man, and then, another guy in terms of bigs, and we're focusing on bigs because guards isn't going to be a problem for Arkansas next year with what's coming in.
So I do want to clarify that right now. Most of what we're talking about on portal guys are post players, just because you're losing Pringle, you're losing Brazil for sure. There's uncertainty around Malik Ewan right now. So in terms of your true post players, that's what you really need to go out and get. Also, because that was at times the weakness of the team this season. Guard play should be fine next year.
Right.
Even if we lose Malik, you still have some guys, and you still have those freshmen, 2 wings and a guard coming in. So we're not prioritizing the guards as much right now talking about this, just because we're a little bit more comfortable on who we already have coming back for sure on guards. Or coming in next year, I guess. But, yeah.
And so next guy up would be Kwame Evans Jr. He is a junior at Oregon State, so similar to Ndongo, would be a senior next year. 6'10", 220. Averaged 13.3 points this year, 7.4 rebounds, 2 assists, shot 45% from the field. Played in 30 of 30 games for Oregon. Averaged about 30.9 minutes. 45% from the field, like I said, 30.4% from three, 79 from the line, averaged about 1.3 blocks per game. So another guy, experienced, was a former, McDonald's All-American guy. highly touted recruit.
So, yeah, I think that former McDonald's All-American does play a role in the sense that Cal is used to the guys that come in with that hype around them
Mm-hmm.
and getting them to kind of, put their head down and put that effort in. So, some coaches may not be as tenured or experienced with the guys who are supposed to be everything. Cal has plenty of experience with that, is able to kind of keep them in check, but also push them to be their best selves and keep them kind of looking out for the good of the team as a whole. So that's why I think he would actually be a very good fit. By the way, all of these names are ones that there's obviously talk around, but also some names that I personally really like the idea of. So
Right. And that's what you got to talk about. That's what portal season is names and guys that you think can come fit your program. And so we do have a couple of guards to talk about. One more kind of forward big man that you've got since you've got to replace Brazil. We talked about him previously on a show, but Keanu Dawes from Utah has already entered the portal and announced his intentions to enter the portal. 12.5 points per game for him, 8.8 rebounds, 2.2 assists, shot 54% from the field, shot 31% from three. Not as many blocks as these other guys, but he's going to play that more hybrid forward type player that Brazil that maybe not as
for.
Yeah.
So my dream, hey, you go get Cyril, you get Scylla, and you get Dawes as kind of your stretch. So that way you can have kind of Scylla and Cyril kind of swapping in and out down low, being your true bruisers. And you let Dawes play more kind of that Brazil type role where it's kind of stretching the floor, being able to hit a three occasionally, but also being kind of that long athletic build dude. I mean, 8.8 rebounds. He wasn't even the 5 on their team. That's pretty solid. So I'll gladly take that as well. A guy who knows how to go in and get some boards.
100%. I will take that every day. So he's another guy, that we talked about. And then we do have 2 guards to talk about that could be potential fits if Arkansas.
Actually, 3. I had another one I forgot to tell you about before the show started.
No, you're good. But a couple to talk about, or something to talk about if, we do potentially lose anybody, thinking if Malik does go in the draft, if say DJ doesn't come back, there's rumors out there that Memphis is trying to poach Billy, things like that, that we don't necessarily think could happen, but these are guys that Cal could potentially go after if he has to replace those guys with some experience.
I will say these 3 are more guard type players instead of wings. So maybe not replacing a Billy type player, but more so your Malik or a DJ.
Right. And that makes sense. So thinking about that, one of the ones is Malik Mack Jr. from Georgetown, 6'2", 175. For him, averaged 13.6 points per game, 3 rebounds, 4.1 assists, shot 38% from the field, played in 34 games for Georgetown, averaged 32 minutes a game, shot 29% from 3 and 81% from the line. Another just experienced guard will be a senior coming in that could kind of be a leader.
You saw that with him bringing in John L. Davis last year, bring in some of those senior guards just for – now, granted, obviously, if DJ's coming back, he's going to be a senior. He has that experience. But you do love having multiple senior guards to be able, especially come March Madness time, when the pressure gets up there and when, crazy things can happen at the end of a game. You want that experience, calm, cool, and collected dudes who have seen it before. So,
yeah. And so, another guy, we saw him play in the tournament. More than likely is headed to where his old coach is playing, but we got to talk about him because he could be, a good player for Cal to go out and get, and that is South Florida's Wes Enos. 16. He'll be a senior next year, 6'2", 200, 16.4 points per game, 3.6 rebounds, 2.4 assists, shot 39% from the field. A guy that also shot 35% from three, so can light it up from downtown. Also shot 81% from the line. So, another talented guard that, could be a nice addition if we needed to get somebody else.
I fully expect him to go to Providence. I just wanted to add him to my list because of the last name. So there you go. He's missing an N, but other than that, he's pretty solid.
Right. So, and then who's the third one you have here?
I don't even know if he's going to enter the portal or not, but Brett Decker from Liberty, he's going to be a junior. He was actually second in the league in 3-point percentage, 47%. He's a 6'3" guard, 16.9 points, 2.6 boards, and 84.8 from the free throw line as well. So come down to crunch time, he hit threes at almost a 50% clip and free throws at pretty much 85% clip. So just a consistent shooter who has a pure shot. That's always good to have one of those guys on your team. And that's kind of more so if we lose a Malik Thomas type guy. You need someone to be able to catch and shoot. And 47.1% is a pretty dang good clip. So,
yeah, I agree. It's one of those things where you always want those shooters. You need those guys. And I think from the Muss years, even though we did have success, you didn't really have shooters. You were more a slash, drive, and attack type of team. But that, that's a little bit changed with Cal's mentality and how his roster builds are.
So I would expect 9-man rotation next season. Maybe pushing it to 10. But I feel like this season, having that 8-man rotation, getting decimated by injuries and seeing kind of how he struggled, say, the Bama game and just kind of the postseason and end of season with fouls, I think that's going to kind of sway him to adding at least one other guy to the rotation.
Right. Especially like with the shortened rotation we had this year, that's not ideal. And, we saw the struggles a little bit last year when you had Nelly hurt, you had Adu hurt. So, it would be nice to have some additional depth and guys that actually have playing time, because you see the scenario. Look at this season against Alabama. You had all those guys foul out and you were having to play in crunch time guys that hardly played at all in a crunch time double overtime situation.
Yeah. So still a lot to happen. Obviously, once the portal officially opens, we'll see everything kind of start to fall into place. But hope to see some of these dominoes start falling before long and kind of get an idea of what next year will look like. But regardless of what happens, hey, you got to trust Cal and not too worried about the roster build, especially with kind of for sure the 3 coming in next year.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. So, that's where we're at. That's some potential names to look out for. Like we said, the portal won't open up until next week. So we still got the rest of this tournament to get through, and then we'll go from there. And then kind of we'll keep you updated also on, Razorbacks and see what's going to happen with some of those guys. What is Malik Ewan's announcement going to be? Do we have anybody else that potentially enter the portal and things like that? So stay tuned and locked in with us here. And then what was that?
I said I'll be working overtime to make sure I try to stay up to date with everything. So
yeah, there you go.
I'm trying to be up to date every time we're on here and kind of give the latest info that I got. So
yeah, exactly. So we'll keep you the most accurate, up to date information we can get. So with that, we'll get ready to wrap up here. Looking at the schedule going into the weekend, as we mentioned, Auburn will start tomorrow at 6:00 on ESPN2. Friday's game will be at 6 on SEC Network Plus, and Saturday's game will be at 2:00 on SEC Network Plus. Softball, as we mentioned, they'll be playing Auburn as well here in Fayetteville at Bogle Park. Those games will be Friday or Saturday through Monday, with Saturday's game 4:00 on SEC Network, plus Sunday's game 3:00 on SEC Network, and Monday's game at 6:00 on SEC Network. And then again, we'll just keep you up to date with portal news and things like that. And we'll get ready to wrap up here. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe to the show on YouTube, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. That way you don't miss any time we go live and we keep you up to date. And yeah, everybody get ready to watch some Arkansas baseball tomorrow. Have a great weekend, Easter weekend. We'll keep you updated on what Sunday's show is going to look like, if we're going to shift to Monday, what that kind of looks like. So we'll keep you up to date and let you know. But with that, we'll wrap up and get out of here. Zane, you want to hit them with it before we leave?
Woo pig always.
There you have it. So we're going to get out of here. From Zane, myself, we're going to get out of here, and we will see you at some point for our recap show. We'll let you know when that's going to be. But for now, have a great rest of your week. Let's hope Arkansas baseball can fix some things and get something figured out and get some wins this weekend. But with that, we're going to get out of here, and we'll see you when we see you.